Good evening, I'm Peggy Scott Laborde, and welcome to Grape Performances. Tonight, our star is Nell Nolan, society columnist for the Times-Picayune, the New Orleans Advocate, and actress, and so much more, as you'll discover. Nell has written and will perform 3 monologues inspired by her travels. She has also incorporated wine in her stories, and she wrote these specifically for tonight's performance. Many thanks to Sandra and Russ Herman, who are sponsoring our Great Performances series. Now let's take care of a little business on how to best view this event. To get the full Zoom feed, be sure to pin the Great Performances box from your gallery window. Here's how to do it. Find the square with the feed labeled Great Performances. Move your mouse over to that square. 3 dots in the upper right-hand corner will appear. Click on those dots and click Pin Video, and you should have our program full screen. And please mute your mics on your laptop. And now, before we present Nell, we welcome James Moises of Bizou Wines to tell us about our first selection tonight. Hi, James. How are you?
Hi, Peggy. It's great to be back and to be a part of tonight's monologues with Nell Nolan. What a great evening we have in store.
Thank you. What do you have for us?
So we're going to start out with wines from France for our first wine this evening. We're going to be in the southern part of France, in the southern Rhone, near a town of Avignon, France, which is in the southern Rhone. Avignon, as you know, is back in the 14th century was when we had 2 popes, one in Rome and one in Avignon. The small appellation of where this wine comes from is from a small area called Tavel. And what's interesting about Tavel is that it only makes rosé wines. And the rosés that come from Tavel in the southern Rhone are heartier rosés, as you're tasting tonight.
Mm-hmm.
This particular winery is called Domaine Mauby. Richard Mauby is the 6th generation owner and winemaker of this wine. He makes numerous other wines as well. And it's a beautiful rosé that's very expressive of Tavel. It's mostly Cinsault with some Grenache. Those are the 2 grapes that make this up. The family's been making wine for over 100 years, and Richard has been the winemaker for well over 25 years now. It's organic wines, no chemicals. It's a beautiful expression of Tavel with a lot of history, and I think everyone out there tonight hopefully will enjoy it.
James, to confirm that rosé should be slightly chilled?
Yes, so rosé you want to drink chilled. You know, in the south of France, that's all they drink in the summertime is rosé. So you can chill it way down and enjoy it, and it's made for drinking very cold.
I have actually heard that some people add ice cubes. Is that heresy?
If it's too warm, sure, add an ice cube, because you're going to drink it so fast, it's not going to really affect the wine.
All right, James. We'll see you a little later. But now it is show time. Here is Nell with All the World's a French Stage, concerning a once-in-a-lifetime experience in France. She went to the International Molière Festival to perform in a play in French. This monologue and the next are true stories.
We had just finished a rehearsal for a play, a French play in French, when our director, Lucien, sat us all down in his living room on Audubon Street and offered us a glass of wine. Nice French vin ordinaire, but no chateau on the label. Rehearsal had gone well, and we were happy and relaxed. He looked at us and radiated a smile. We have been asked to present our play in France at the Molière Festival. I and we thought, sure. Our play had a small cast of 8, 3 semi-professional actors, and it was intended for a New Orleans audience. Most of them wouldn't be very good French speakers or even listeners. Was Lucien kidding us? Or was this really going to happen? It looked like it was going to happen. And it was for a real French-speaking audience. Oh, boy. Pinch me, I'm dreaming, I thought. I love theater, anything French, and travel. This would be a dream realized, and it would happen in 4 weeks. Mon Dieu. You know, decades ago in New Orleans, there were French-language theatrical groups which put on plays in French. I acted in a number of them, but this was going to be big time. The play we were working on was The Doctor in Spite of Himself, a comedy by the great Molière. He's sort of a French Shakespeare. I was cast as the ingenue, the young feminine lead. My character's father, the doctor of the title, wanted her to marry an old, decrepit man and not the young one she loved. How many times have we seen that theme in plays? To make it feel all the more authentic, we were planning to perform in period costumes of the 17th century. Our New Orleans venue was a Tulane University stage. Lucien said that after our local performances, we would fly to Paris and then to the south of France, to a town called Pézenas. That's where Molière and his troupe of actors performed ages ago. Thus, it was the perfect site for a festival. We would be representing French-speaking Louisiana and joined on stage for days with performers from the famous La Comédie Française in Paris, the National Theatre, as well as esteemed groups from Belgium, Canada, Senegal, and on and on. I could just imagine what their productions would look like, whereas ours was rather modest. We had costumes, yes, but not elaborate sets, lighting, and big stars in the cast. But then we did have nice costumes, especially mine, and we were proud of them. Mine was snug at the bodice with a square neck and a full skirt and made of the most gorgeous sky blue fabric. It fit me like a dream, and I loved wearing it and felt so confident. The trip was on, and off we went to France. When we arrived in Pézenas, the press was out. Cameramen, photographers, newspaper writers, and townspeople were all there to greet us and set up socializing and interviews. Needless to say, we were quite excited as they gushed over us, the American actors. We were the only ones from the States who were invited. Our luggage was delivered to our hotel in Pézenas. After the immediate welcome, we went to the hotel, tired from the trip and ready to unpack and take a nap. Everyone in our group was set. Except there was one glitch, a huge one. My bag didn't make it, and in it was my costume. This wasn't a case where I could just run out to a costume rental store or borrow one. It had to be my dress or, I don't know. In my handbag, I had a change of clothes for daytime, so at least that was possible. And there was a store nearby for toiletries, but still. Our rehearsal schedule began, and we were shocked at how little time we had with the big stage. All the theatrical troupes wanted as much time as possible, and there was only this one stage. Our performance was in 2 days. It all went by so fast, and I still had the dilemma: no costume. Just as I was about to come up with some ragtag version of a costume the evening of our performance, there was a knock on my hotel door. I held my breath. "Mademoiselle, votre valise," said the bellman. I grabbed my suitcase, kissed it, and tipped the bellman. Our play was to start in an hour. I rushed to the theater, actually the stage, and the show went on. Whew. After the premiere performance and an overwhelming sigh of relief, we assembled with our director Lucien for notes and just the fun of being together. Little did I know then that I would, in future years, appear on 9 more different stages in Europe: Paris a number of times, London, Tbilisi in the Republic of Georgia, and a few others. All a dream continued. But this, in Pézenas, was the initial and the jubilant moment. We were giddy with the realization of what had just happened. Our performance went well, really well. Of course, we had wine to celebrate, along with the obligatory champagne. This time, our wine was top of the line, reserve, with a distinctive chateau on the label.
Thank you so much, Nell. Wow, wonderful. We can all relate to the possibility of not getting our luggage in time, right? Wonderful, Nell. And more from Nell in just a little while. But now we're going to zoom around. We're going to travel, if you will, by zooming around and seeing who's out there and looking around. I know we've got a lot of familiar faces. Hello, hello. Hey, how are you, sir? Hi. Hey, great to see you all. Thank you so much. Yes. Hi, welcome, welcome. Glad you're all with us. We have quite a turnout. Gee, I wonder who that is. I think that's Mr. Robert Young, also known as the husband, the dear husband of Nell Nolan. Thank you, Robert, for for letting us have Nell this evening. It means so much and all her talent. Hi, y'all. How you doing? Good to see you. That's right. It's still light outside. Hey, welcome. Thank you all for zooming in. And Jim Tapley. Hello, Jim. Wait, Jim, that's not wine. Wait a minute. You're not playing fair. Hi there. Good to see you. Welcome. It's great to see y'all. Yeah. We have such a great time. It's hello, Mr. and Mrs. Wheatley. Hello. Nell's sister. Hi. Great for y'all to zoom in with us. Thank you. And hello. And I think I see Winnie Brown and Ann Red and Dana Hansel. Hi, y'all. Thank you, Dana, who's so much a part of all this. You betcha. Hi, y'all. Good to see you. Hey. Glad you're here. And by the way, we should thank our Vino Wine and Spirits, too. Hey, Jake, and hey, Susan. Good to see you all. Hi, Barbara Kaplinsky with the most wonderful starry background. Love it, love it. Looks great. But we do want to acknowledge Vino Wine and Spirits. We appreciate it. Hey, Miss Connie. Hey, I hope you're doing well. Please tell your adorable husband hi for us, too. And good, you've got it. It's Mark Rummen. Yay, Mark. Thank you for being with us. Hello. Touchdown. You know that's going to have to be, all over the place, a sign for you, right? How y'all doing? Hey, welcome. Thank you so much. I love all the wonderful photos in the background. Hello, hello. Thank you. Look at the wonderful background. Thank you for being with us tonight. We appreciate it. Hi there. How you doing? Right, toast to you too, sir. Great. It is so exciting. We have so many wonderful folks tonight. And my goodness, some pals here. And I know, of course, Nell's pals, but ours too. Janet and Stan Duvall. Thank you. And Janet, I know that you parle français. And many times with Nell. With Nell. Thank you all. Great to see you. Yes. Hey, how are you? Good to see you. Hi. Welcome, welcome too. Hey, and that was, of course, Suzanne. Hey, yes, hi. Thank you all. Thanks for being with us. Love that background with the wonderful stairs. Hey, Susie Villery. Good to see you. Tell Pierre hi. Wonderful backdrop. What a wonderful turnout. Yes, absolutely. I think I see Casey Willems in there, too. Hey, Casey. Hey, my sister Nan and her sister-in-law, Joanne Deacon. Hi, y'all. Hope you're enjoying the rosé tonight. Yay! Good. Hi, how are you? What a wonderful background with the roses in the background and the beautiful art. Thank you for being here. Woohoo! The turnout tonight is so wonderful. Hey! Oh my goodness, we've got Bob and Jane Carr, hi, and Dominic Massa. And I know they're dear friends of Nell's as well as mine and ours. Good to see y'all. Thank you. Hope you're enjoying. Look at that fancy glass. And there's Vivian. Hey, Vivian. Thank you so much for being with us. Tell Richie hi. Okay. Thank you so much for being here. It is so gratifying. It means so much. Hi, how are you? Good to see you. Hope you're enjoying the rosé or just enjoying our wonderful evening. Hi, how are you? Good to see you. Thank you for being with us. Yeah. We have just got this great turnout. Hi. Hey, Susan. Welcome. Hey, Susan and Jimmy. Yeah. Hey, there you are. Hey. And Katie and How. Hello, hello. Thank you all for joining us. I love that glass. Great to see you. Hey, Michael. It's wonderful that you're here. Thank you. And Nell is doing such a great job. She has plenty more in just a moment, too. Yes, hi, hey. Good to see you too, Claiborne. Hey, yay, Clay. Yeah. Okay. And there's Casey Willems and Connie. Casey, I hope you're still doing your pottery. Hey. I have plenty of it. I love your pottery so much, including the berry bowl. That's one of my favorites. I know that's your signature. Hey there. Thank you for being with us tonight. All right. Very good. What a wonderful turnout. We're going to visit some more folks a little later. I know Errol Laborde's out there somewhere. Hey, how are y'all? Hi. Very good. Yay. Very good. Okay, and so now we'll be visiting in a little while, of course, once again. But now it's time to go back to James. And James, what do you have for us for our second vino?
So Peggy, we're going to take a train ride along the southern coast of France, through the Pyrenees, and end up in Catalonia, which is the northernmost part of Spain, about 25 miles north of Barcelona. And this particular winery is called Navarone. It's been in the family, this estate, since the 11th century, which is hard for a lot of us to imagine here in the U.S. But the same family has owned this property and these vineyards since the 11th century. It's an amazing property. This is a cava, and cava means it's made just like champagne, but we can't call it champagne because it's not made in Champagne. But cava is 3 different grapes: Macabeo, Xarello, and Parellada, which are the 3 traditional grapes that go into making cava. And in this particular region, north of Barcelona, is where the majority of cava is made in Spain. It's aged in, just like champagne, 2 years in the bottle before it's released. So this is a 2018 vintage, and it's a brut, which means they add just a tiny little bit of sugar to kind of balance the acidity with a little bit of the sweetness. But it's a beautiful balance, and it's a fantastic an expression of what cava should taste like. The vines are over 50 years old, and they age it in oak before they age it in bottle for 12 months. So it's really the classic and best way to make cava.
Now, James, once again, I noticed on their website that they are very keen on organic. So could you expound on that a little bit more?
Yeah, so the trend now in winemaking for small producers is really to go organic, sustainable, which means literally no chemicals, whether either in the vineyard or in the winery. So what you're tasting when you taste organic wines is really the true expression of what the grape tastes like from the vine. We pick it from the vineyard. It's crushed, it's fermented, it's pressed, and there's nothing added to it. So it's really the technique of a winemaker where he's able to allow the fruit to really express itself, and it ends up in a bottle where we get to drink it at some point.
And of course, we know that the kissing cousins are Prosecco, Cava, and Champagne. Explain why we can't always use that word, Champagne.
Exactly. So Champagne is the Champagne region in France, which is northeast of Paris, coined the term and trademarked the term. So nobody else can use the word champagne unless they get permission from the appellation in Champagne, France. But people make sparkling wines throughout the world. So in Spain, it's called cava, if it's made the right way. In Italy, they make traditional method type sparklings like champagne, but they're called spumante. Prosecco is another style of making sparkling, but it's mainly done in a steel tank where they add a little bit of gas. So that's why Proseccos tend to be very inexpensive, because they're made in a less expensive way, but they're still very refreshing, and I encourage people to have a glass of Prosecco every day.
Yeah, is spumante a little sweeter? Would spumante be a little sweeter? Or?
It depends. There are some that are sweeter, but a lot of times they are dry. So it really depends, and that's where when you go to a fine wine store, they can kind of show you either a sweeter sparkling or a less sweeter one. I tend to like drier ones because you can drink more of them before the palate gets tired.
We don't want a tired palate, huh? No, 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 no. All right, thank you, James. We'll be back with you in a little while.
Okay.
And now it's time for Nell's second monologue, Escorial, you all. It's about a trip to Spain with her husband when they connected with 4 young men to take a trip to the landmark El Escorial, a Spanish royal palace and monastery. This is an actual true story. Nell and her husband learned an interesting cultural lesson.
Go to the hotel and take a nap. My husband and I were in the Prado Museum in Madrid, Spain, and were standing up looking at a painting, and we both fell asleep, standing up looking at a painting. We had flown that day from New Orleans to Madrid. Robert hoped that we would get to the museum without a nap, and then around 9 p.m. we'd meet for dinner with son Linton, who was studying in Spain, and his 3 college-age buddies, Christopher, Claude, and Fritz. A nap for Robert and me at the hotel was a necessity. We really needed it. After having slept, we were sufficiently energized to go to dinner and start a gala evening with lots of wine, tinto and blanco. Of course, Linton and his pals had a great time with the fellowship, food, and the good vino we arranged. This was the first outing on the agenda, and it took place on a Saturday night in early June. Robert had made lots of clever and imaginative arrangements before we left the States so that everything would go smoothly. For Sunday, the plan was to go to Mass near the hotel, connect with the young men, and then meet with our driver for a short lunch. That's a short lunch before venturing on to the Escorial, which was about 30 miles out of town. This is an important Spanish landmark and the burial place of history's famous Philip II, Felipe II. We felt a bit extravagant getting a driver and a car, in reality a stretch limousine, but we wanted to please the boys and make time. Outfitted in fine livery with a shiny black vehicle, Alfonso arrived. He was both our driver and tour guide. We told him the plan. Lunch, the Escorial, where we wanted to spend several hours and was really the purpose of our trip that day, and then the corrida de toros, back in Madrid for the bullfight. Robert had planned it all so well. Off we went. Our first stop, rather brief, was to the Valley of the Fallen, Valle de los Caídos, a monumental memorial. Then it was time for lunch. Alfonso suggested a restaurant, and since we were in his charge, we agreed. In fact, we liked the idea. It was nearby, in the country, full of atmosphere and just enough people to make it animated. Good choice. After a while, the server came to take our drink orders. Water was looked down on, but it was integral. We were thirsty. Of course, the guys liked the idea of tinto, the red wine. About 20 minutes later, the drinks arrived, and then the server was gone. We were ready for food, but first we had to get menus. Eventually, they appeared, and we made some haste to order. Honestly, we were hungry, but again, the server was gone. Alfonso suggested a number of tapas, the appetizers, and we thought that was a good idea. An hour and 10 minutes after we entered the restaurant, the tapas were set before us, and we made overtures to order the main courses. Alfonso let it be known that it was best for him to take over getting us food, and we more or less agreed. Then a few dishes arrived. Great! We would get quick postres, or dessert, and then hit the road to El Escorial. No such luck. We had just begun our meal, as well as the wine that would keep on flowing. As Alfonso explained, almost deaf to our American ears, in Spain on a Sunday you dine leisurely and savor the many courses. Es necesario disfrutarlo. It is considered rude to the restaurant to want to move things along. It's just not done. But what about the purpose of our excursion? Our trip to the Escorial. That's what Robert had booked. The meal was intended to be nice but incidental and not very long. Sure, we wanted to eat, but we needed to get going. Then the next courses arrived, and the next ones, and finally dessert. We were culinarily trapped. Even getting La Cuenta, the bill, more expensive than we had anticipated, seemed to take forever. Would we even make it to El Escorial? Suppose they decided to close up a bit earlier and our whole plan would have been for naught. Please, por favor, Alfonso, we begged, get us there. I will, he said. But first, let me show you a few sights on the way. No, thank you, Alfonso. The Escorial is going to close. Linton and his pals, who were not as keen as visiting this Spanish landmark as we were, and had enjoyed all the good food and drink, began getting edgy. They wanted to see some action. We just made it to the ticket area at El Escorial, begging the cashier to let us in. Come back another time, and you can stay longer, he said. We cannot. We have come all the way from New Orleans, Louisiana, and Los Estados Unidos, and we want to visit El Escorial. We leave Madrid tomorrow. Well, it did happen. Our visit was certainly not what and the length Robert and I had hoped for and planned, but we made it. We got to see and visit El Escorial. Now we had to get back to Madrid in time for the bullfight, for which we had bought 6 special tickets. You know, you don't want to sit with the setting sun in your eyes. All that had to be calculated and paid for in advance. We were late. Sunday afternoon traffic going back into Madrid was slow, congested, and hot. On the other hand, we did not need to see all the bulls, and in fact, we cheered on a superior one who looked like he bested the matador and was taken out of the ring, alive. That was really unusual, and we got to witness it. By then it was night, and we asked Linton and his friends what they wanted to do. They would let us know later. Robin and I returned to our hotel, thanked and paid Alfonso, and the boys went off to theirs. The plan was to meet in 2 hours. In fairness, Robin and I let them decide where we would have dinner. Their choice of a restaurant, Spanish in flavor and style, was lots of fun and geared to what they wanted to eat. Just enough, not too much. We laughed about the cultural experience that we had had earlier that day and the decorum surrounding a fine restaurant meal. One that is not to be hurried, but to be lingered over and remembered. And remembered. When we asked Linton, Christopher, Claude, and Fritz what they wanted to drink, we almost expected Coca-Cola. But that was not the case. They were starting to get in the sophisticated spirit of this Iberian adventure and smiled, saying, "We'd like vino tinto."
All right. Thank you so much, Nell. And we have one more monologue, once again, that Nell has written especially for us. And we'll also talk about some travel stories and growing up in New Orleans. But it's time for wine number 3. James.
All right, Peggy, we're now taking a train back through France and coming out of the Alps into Italy in a region called Piemonte. In Italy, in Italian rather, Piemonte means foot of the mountains, because literally it's in the northwestern part of Italy, and it's encased between Italy, France, and Switzerland, which is fascinating. Piemonte is a wonderful area. This particular winery is called Baila. It's, again, a family-owned estate winery and castle since the 13th century. It's just a fascinating history. And one of the daughters visited New Orleans 2 years ago, and I learned so much about her. This particular wine and grape is called Nebbiolo. Nebbiolo means fog in Italian, and it's called that because in Piemonte, in this particular area of Langhe, it's very high hills, and the fog settles in the valley, and the vineyards are above the fog, and so that's why this grape is called Nebbiolo. This is the grape that's used to make Barolo. But in its fresher state and younger state, it's bottled as a Nebbiolo wine. and you get the tannins. It's a medium body wine, but with some really big tannins, as everybody's probably experiencing right now. This also is an organic winery, no chemicals. It's a small producer, even though they've been in business for a very long time, but only about 100 acres. And we're proud to represent all the wines they make, which is about 12 different wines from that region. This particular region is known for meat, for cheeses, and for truffles, and of course for wine. It's fascinating. I visited there about 2 years ago, and it's a very rural part of Italy, as is most parts of wine country around the world. But they make just some beautiful, amazing wines there. And it's a simple life, but a very special life for people who go there and live there.
James, what's so wonderful is that all three of these, if you go to their websites, many of them, they have places to go. You can visit the winery. In that particular instance, there's even a special bike tour, and there's a truffle tour. So, we really encourage you, once we start traveling again, which we hope is very soon, how much fun would that be, to go to 3 different countries to wineries? Yeah, that would work well. James, let's talk about you, kiddo. Okay, first of all, Bizou Wines. Tell us about your business, and then you have a very special place. So first, Bizou.
Sure. So I got into the wine business about 20 years ago, producing wine in Oregon. So I make Pinot Noir, which has my last name on it, Moises, and the city's been very supportive of that. About 10 years ago, I started Bizou Wines, which is my import distribution company. And over the last 10 years, I've grown that to not only represent domestic wines from the West Coast, but the bigger part of it is I import wines directly from France and Italy and from Lebanon directly to New Orleans. So many of the wines in the portfolio are only in the New Orleans market, really nowhere else in the country. But they're special wines and at a great value. And they're in most of or not most, but a lot of the fine restaurants in the city and fine wine shops.
Well, I know you say fine wine shops. I know one of them is Swirl, obviously Vino Wine and Spirits. So that's just 2 of probably many, right?
Yeah, we also sell to Nola Wine Merchant uptown and to Spirit Wines, Swirl, like you mentioned. Most of the fine wine shops do or support us because they really like the wines that we bring in, and it's a great value and great wines for the consumers.
I know a real coup, though, is that you do also focus, as you said, on Lebanese wines because of your heritage. Is that correct?
Exactly. So my grandparents immigrated over from Lebanon. I'm Lebanese from both sides, and I'm proud to say I'm probably the largest importer of Lebanese wines in the entire country. We represent 9 wineries from Lebanon, about 40 different wines, and they're fantastic wines. Bigger wines because it's real warm in that part of the Mediterranean, but wonderful wines. And again, they're available in different parts of the city in restaurants and certain wine shops.
And now let's talk about a very special place, the Cellar on St. Louis.
Yes, so the Cellar on St. Louis is actually the warehouse where we do business out of. It's on the Lafitte Greenway, which I'm very proud to be a part of. The Lafitte Greenway is an amazing project for people who haven't been on it yet. You really should come out and explore it. But my warehouse is on there, and we do hold special events for small private parties. If you're interested, it's a large warehouse, but we can make it very quaint. As you see in some of the pictures here, this was a very special birthday party that we had here, and it was a special evening. So we make it special even though it's a very large warehouse.
It really was, and may I say, because I have experienced it, and what I so much like about it is that, James, what you did was, you selected some wines, and you can also get St. James cheese, because I believe you help store some of the cheese in your warehouse. Is that correct?
Exactly. St. James warehouse is with me, and they do their distribution out of my warehouse.
So talk to James, okay? And what a wonderful evening to have, wine and cheese pairings, and James to talk about each of the wine. Really a fun time. So James, we're thrilled about that. And may we just credit James, because I know James was very much a part of the concept of our grape performances, which I love that title, and we sure appreciate all of your help with this. Thank you, James.
Thank you.
And now the final piece, the longest, for Miss Nell is titled, "Is This Seat Occupied?" It takes place in Italy, and as Nell describes it, it is a story made up from some of my travels and from my heart.
You're not supposed to play favorites as a parent, but most of us do in some way. Do you ever feel that way? I loved all three of my children. I really did, and do. But I can't deny that John is special, unique, maybe most like me. There were times when the other kids, his brother and sister, would dash off to be with their friends on some activity that I couldn't relate to. I mean, I related as a mother, but it was not really something I had known. I played volleyball and basketball growing up, but not soccer. I had no interest in the latest technology or fast and fussy cars, and I enjoyed walking or rides with friends or public transportation. I learned a lot about that when I lived in Europe. I took subways, buses, trains. My other children, Hans and Rebecca, were always talking about things I didn't know. And then John would take out an art book and sketch what he saw. He loved Europe, the idea of Europe, even as a child, whereas the other two were, well, so American. When John told me as a high school student that he wanted to study and live in Europe one day, it came as no surprise to me and his father, Charlie, my husband. Charlie and I have always been happy as a couple, really happy. There are many things we shared and others that were more his thing or mine. He loved sailing, and frankly, I had to get over being seasick. Art and art history fascinated me, and I had to explain at length to Charlie aspects of architecture, my avocation, if you will. I had planned to go to graduate school in architecture after college, and after I had traveled and worked. I knew I had to work to pay for graduate school, but that was in the future. What I did get a degree in was Italian literature. Studying architecture would be down the line. And so, as a young college graduate, I went to Europe on my own version of the Grand Tour. The dollar was really strong then, and I had saved my money for years to make it possible. Not just content with Europe, I ventured into North Africa and Asia. I'm amazed now with what I did then, but I did it. Like everyone, I fell in love with Italy and an Italian. But that was long ago. I returned to the States, worked, met Charlie, married, and became a mother to John, Rebecca, and Hans. I didn't go to graduate school in architecture. Life was good and busy, still is. John finished Harvard at the top of his class. He was a humanities major and enjoyed many of the things that had shaped my early life. It was no surprise to me and Charlie when John said that he wanted to live in Europe, preferably Italy. He had said that years ago. And then he had a change of plans. He decided to study architecture, and with his drive and talent, ended up selected to study at the Academy of France in Rome, which evolved from the Prix de Rome, the Rome Prize. That's a top prize for art students, probably the most prestigious one of its kind. You live in Rome for several years and meet some of the most important young names in the field. When he packed his bags to move to Rome, a real piece of me was with him. I was vicariously making that trip. I would, through my son John, get a degree in architecture. It was a dream. With John away and Rebecca and Hans entering college and Charlie starting a new business, life was still full and demanding. My own work and my design shop was challenging, but fun. Successful too. My business partner and I were surprised that we were getting nice profits. And I loved the fact that Charlie was proud of me and bragged about his wife, the businesswoman. I really miss John. I'm not a hovering mom, but I clung to every bit of correspondence, every call, email, postcards. We didn't Skype. One day, I left my shop and just wandered a bit at lunchtime, walking around the block and forgetting about the next order of antiques and all the other demands of the business. Sally, my partner, was solid, and we had a good business relationship. I thought about John. I then, for some reason, thought about Claudio. My mind raced back 40 years. It was during my 2 years in Europe, and I was traveling alone. Peggy, my friend, had just left me in Rome and returned to the States. On one hand, I missed her presence. On the other, it was sort of nice to be alone and do what I wanted to do. And what I wanted to do was to visit Venice. So I reserved a seat on the train from Rome to Venice, La Serenissima. My seat was in one of those compartments, and I made myself comfortable but rather inconspicuous. I was an American traveling alone and wanted to blend in with the Italians. 5 of us were in the compartment and nodded to each other cordially. Then the door opened. A young man, blonde, blue-eyed, and strong, looked in and in Italian asked, "È occupato questo posto?" Is this seat occupied? It was not. He took it. We talked in my halted Italian and connected. To distance ourselves from the compartment, he suggested we go to the club car. Most gallantly, he smiled and said, "Posso offrirti un bicchiere di vino? May I offer you a glass of wine?" Of course, I accepted. We planned to meet for dinner in Venice. Dinner became dinners. After a week in Venice of a whirlwind romance, a chaste one, I met his parents in Milan. They invited me to stay in their home, and another week passed. All the while, Claudio and I realized that something was very strong between us. It was love in some form, and neither of us knew how to proceed. Both my time in Europe and money were running out, and I had to return home. It wasn't easy. I had a pining and broken heart. Upon my return to the States, I wrote countless letters addressed to Claudio Visconti, and even added his title. He had told me rather discreetly that his family was an old one, a noble one, and he had several titles. His letters to me were half in Italian and half in English. He was trying to reach out to me in my language. Phone calls were few. People just didn't make transatlantic calls in those days. Gradually, Claudio and I stopped writing. Certainly my emotions were mixed. And then I met Charlie. My life took another course, a good one. My youthful romance faded away. I assumed that Claudio, like me, had married and had begun his adult life. But then, that was a long time ago. John, my son, called one day from Rome, and he had a different tone to his voice. He talked about his studies, operas, and art galleries he'd attended, his strong progress in the Italian language, and so on. But there was something else there. I knew it instinctively. He had fallen in love. She was Italian, a gallery owner, and a very young widow with a small child. Her husband had died in a car wreck. Her name was Francesca Bergamo. Months later, Charlie and I took a joint vacation and went to Rome. We had never seen John, who'd always been such a happy person, seem so happy, so complete, so in love. Francesca was everything he said she was. Curiously, for me, I felt instinctively drawn to her. That wasn't easy to say about the young woman who had captured my beloved son's heart. Charlie and I returned to Rome 8 weeks later for the wedding. Really, weddings, a civil one and a church one. We asked to host a small cocktail reception on the eve of the civil service. That would, of course, be the time when the two families would meet, ours and Francesca's. She explained at the reception given by me and Charlie that her father would be late. He was closing on a big business deal and had to wrap it up. But Francesca's mother was right on time. I guess in all the excitement of the engagement, the planning of the marriage, trips to Italy, leaving my business at a busy time and so forth, that I didn't learn enough about Francesca. Certainly, we had met her precocious little son, Danilo, who would make me and Charlie's step-grandparents. But I really didn't find out about Francesca's own family, about her siblings and mother and father. Now was the chance. I welcomed her lovely mother and marveled at her in the way Americans do of cultured Europeans. Her English was fluent, even British accented. Her clothes and manners refined. And more than that, she projected a warmth and an affection for John. My heart was full. Conversation was lively when Francesca's father arrived, and I noticed him from afar, checking his coat and hat. He then came our way, held out his hand to Charlie, and introduced himself. Claudio Visconti. Oh my God, I thought. Bergamo was Francesca's late husband's name. Here was the man, Claudio, I had loved when I was younger than John, and he was Francesca's father. Claudio then turned to me, and we realized in a crazy flash of recognition and tenderness that what we could not have for ourselves 40 years ago, we could have for our children. He looked at me so knowingly, so warmly, and asked, "May I offer you a glass of wine?"
All righty. Thank you so much, Nell. And we're going to visit with Nell and talk about some other travel stories and also some of her New Orleans memories, of course, of growing up in New Orleans. But James, a last P.S. here. As we approach the summer, can you recommend a few cool whites?
Sure. So when it comes to whites, cool whites, Sauvignon Blanc is the king of whites for the summer. Stick it in the freezer, let it get as cold as it can, and drink it, and it's the white wine of the summer. But in addition, Albarino is I'm a big fan of Albarino, which is, again, a beautiful white wine and very fresh. Those are my two go-to white wines in the summertime, Albarino and Sauvignon Blanc.
Sounds great. And, of course, I'm a fan of the bubbly. So any other bubbly, apart from what we've mentioned tonight, that you'd recommend?
So bubblies in general, both pink and white. You know, people a lot of times think that pink bubbles mean sweet, and that is not the case. There's some wonderful pink bubbles out there that I recommend. And in the bubble stand category, especially when it comes to affordable bubbles for every day or every other day, Cremant bubbles. Be thinking Cremant, which is bubbles made in France, just like champagne, but outside of champagne. Half the price, very affordable. You can drink it every day.
That sounds pretty good. All right, thank you so much, James. And now, yay, Nell Nolan. Hello, Nell. Now, let me just say, we enjoyed your performance so much. You've been a busy bee. Yes. Let's say a toast to you. A toast to you. This is our time in our Zoom to talk about a few more travel stories. And would you please share some with us?
Because we've been to Europe, now I'd like to take us to other areas far, far away. And one trip was to Rovaniemi. Now, how this developed, I had met a another American in Russia. She and I were both part of a package tour of young students in Russia. And this was many, many years ago. And so she told me that she wanted a traveling companion and that we would travel in Scandinavia. So we were in Sweden, and she said, Nell, I'm leaving my car, and we're going to the Arctic Circle. And I said, well, how are we going to get there? And she said, we're going to hitchhike. I said, no, I don't do that sort of thing. No. That's dangerous, but we do have to remember that the world back then was a lot safer in its own way. So we hitchhiked, and a very nice man picked us up, and he entertained us with telling us about the region. We talked to him about America, and when we got to Rovaniemi, where he lived, we asked him to recommend a youth hostel, recommend a nice little hotel, and he said, absolutely not. You will stay with me and my wife and my family. And what Rovaniemi is, it's in Finland, it's in Lapland, and it's the official home of Santa Claus. And what happened was that his children just loved the idea that they had two Americans in their house. And they brought us to school as show and tell. And the whole area, the whole neighborhood kept coming to their house to see the two Americans. And finally, after 3 days when we left, the town turned out. They were throwing roses at us. Come back, we love you, Melinda, we love you, Nell, you've got to come back. So I have a great affection for Rovaniemi, and if you look at it, it's very far away. Now, another experience that I had was in the desert of Morocco. At that point, I was traveling with someone named Zina Nayrod. And Zina had gone to the University of Pennsylvania. And she and I met in Wales. But that's how we met. That's another story. So there we are, and we were in Marrakesh, and we had arranged for some guides to take us into the desert. And we were properly dressed. We had the jellabas on, and it was really, really hot. Really hot. So hot that your eyes start playing tricks on you. And Zina told me, she said, Nell, I don't cope real well with the heat. And I said, well, we'll do what we can do. And so we were traveling a little bit, and then we were stationary. And she said, Nell, I think I'm having a heat stroke. I said, why are you having a heat stroke? What is it? Let's get you some water. Let's get you to lie down, whatever. And I said, but why do you think you're having a heat stroke? She said, I am seeing someone in the desert who is in my class, my creative writing class at the University of Pennsylvania. And I thought, uh-oh, she really has lost it. She really has lost it. A few moments later, this figure comes from the desert, and in this voice full of questioning says, Zina, it really was her classmate. And then a final one, and this occurred in 2011 in Tibet, in Lhasa. And I was traveling with Robert, my husband. We were on a group tour. And we went to a nunnery titled Ani Sang Hung. Now, it's a monastery or nunnery, about 100 young nuns who were there, and they all looked the same, shaved heads, and they had the sort of cranberry robes on, sandals. I was a lot taller than they were. Somehow or another, I got separated from the group. And they were coming up to me. They were sort of fascinated. They wanted to really look. They wanted to touch jewelry. They wanted to look at fingernail polish or something that was very different from them. And they were saying something, and I couldn't quite realize what it was they were saying. And there was an individual nearby who said, you know what they want from you? And I said, well, what is it? They want you to sing. To sing? Yes, to sing to them. So I thought, what am I going to sing to them? And what I decided to do was, when the saints go marching in, they had the best time with that. One of them picked up a tambourine. She was beating on the tambourine. They were forming sort of a little second line all around the monastery. And here we were, way up in the world, singing When the Saints Go Marching In. And how this all developed was I finished college, Newcomb College of Tulane University. I finished in 3 years and knew that I just had to travel. And I'd saved up my money for years, and I went. At that point, the dollar was just very, very strong. And I went to the Sorbonne University in Paris and studied, and then I did a great deal of traveling. I returned to New Orleans after that, and I went to work for the Stern Family Fund. I went to graduate school, so I did get a master's degree in French. I got a master's degree also in Italian. I wrote at various newspapers starting in the 1970s, and then I was hired by the States-Item. Then the States-Item a year later merged with the Times-Picayune, and then the Advocate. And in 1988, I married Robert E. Young, and we now have 4 great grandchildren.
Well, congratulations, and just you being here tonight means so much. We should also say, though, the theater, I know, has been one of your great loves, and we are seeing, though, I'm going to skip just for a moment to see your house, because, of course, we'll talk about the house in just a second. That is the house that became the Benjamin Button house. There we are, and that's actually a scene, and there's Brad Pitt in the middle here. Actually, maybe we should chat about that, but we'll come back to the theater, because I know how much that it means to you. But tell us a little bit about the Benjamin Button house and your house, and of course 7 children, your mom and dad.
Yeah, we grew up, and I've lived almost all of my life in New Orleans. In our family home, the family home was acquired in the 1870s, and when I was growing up, it was my grandfather, and who came from Quebec, Canada, and came to New Orleans, and he became an architect. My father was an architect. My mother, in her earlier days, was the maid of cotton, which was sort of like Miss America for the southern states, the cotton-producing states. And so there were the 3 of them and 7 children. We were all within 10 years of each other. Mm-hmm. So we really had a wonderful time growing up. My siblings were my playmates, and we had a nice big backyard, and so the backyard constantly welcomed neighborhood children and lots of our friends. There we are. There's my mother to the left, and there we are spanning the 7 children in 10 years.
My goodness, yes, and just growing up, of course, in that area, you're on Coliseum. You're right near Commander's Palace, aren't you?
Yes, we're the family house, and I do have to say we do not own it anymore, but we owned it 5 generations, lived in the house, and it's on the same block as Commander's, corner of 4th and Coliseum, and the second picture we just saw, we're more adult children than we were in the early one.
Back to the house just for a moment. Tell us a little bit about how it became the Benjamin Button house.
This was after Katrina, and my mother was in Houston with my sister Nancy and her husband John. And I went to the house one day just to check on things. Coincidentally, the housekeeper happened to be there. And she said this was stuck in the front door, and it was a business card for Paramount Pictures, and saying that they wanted to film in our house, do a major movie in our house. Well, we had been approached a number of times before. My parents always said, oh, no, because the quality was not going to be good. And so I threw the card into the wastepaper basket, and a few moments later I thought, well, wait, that's not my prerogative. So I plucked it out and called my mother and called my sister in Houston, and they got interested. So they started talking to the Paramount people, and so I talked to my mother and I said, well, now what is the movie going to be? And she said, it's based on a novella by F. Scott Fitzgerald. And who's going to be in it? Well, Brad Pitt, Kate Blanchett, directed by David Fincher. I said, okay, let me see what I could do. So I looked in my library at home, and I happened to have the short novella, and read it, and I called up in 2 hours. I said, go with it. So Paramount ended up having the house for a year and a half. We could not go into it. Now, what worked out very well is a niece of mine, Ashley, has been involved in movies for years, stage acting as well, and she's also part of the family. So she was our point person in the house. So it worked out beautifully to have a family member there who knew the movie business. As it turned out, Brad Pitt cast her, wanted her to be in the movie, so she has a pivotal moment and a very good, significant moment. The movie came out, when it came out, it was very exciting in the city. It was my great regret that my mother never got to see it because she died shortly before the movie came out, but it now is a testament to our family living in the house. And when the movie came out, it was nominated for 13 Academy Awards. 13 Academy Awards.
So definitely of quality. So growing up in that house, let's talk about that. You really weren't too far from St. Charles Avenue. What about the parades? Could you hear the parades coming down the street? Tell us about some of those childhood memories.
Well, not only could we hear the parades, but in the summertime with the windows opening, we could hear the vendors, and we'd hear, blackberries, blackberries. My father would give us a couple of dollars, run out and get some fresh blackberries. And then carnival time, 2 blocks away, so the house was 2 blocks from St. Charles Avenue. We would be at the dinner table, and all of a sudden we would hear the band striking up, and we would just flee, run the 2 blocks, see the parades, come back, finish dinner maybe, do our homework, go to bed. The same thing would happen the next night. So carnival and the parades and a love of all of that was intrinsic to me and my family.
Well, speaking of carnival, we should point out, of course, you made your debut. Now here you are, someone who has covered, carnival for so many years in society and presentations, but you yourself was a debutante, weren't you?
Yes. And there I am with my father.
Ulysses Marinoni Nolan.
Right.
Yeah. And, of course, your dad was Rex in 1977, wasn't he?
Daddy was Rex in 1977, and 5 years before that, my sister Elizabeth Ann Nolan, Betty Nolan, was queen herself. So she goes back in 2022 as the 50-year queen. And there's my father with his queen and his pages.
And we have Miss Fenner, of course, as queen,
right.
Mary Jane Sanders Fenner, and Messrs. Nolte and McIntyre striding them. But no, how so exciting. Your dad was a very, of course, beloved architect and community activist himself as well. So yes, absolutely. And carnival, you've certainly covered the carnival scene and the society scene for so many years. How appropriate that you would be. But let's talk about theater, because I know that's one of your loves, of course. And you have been doing presentations many times, raising money for various civic causes and charity. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I've been on stages for over 50 years.
Goodness.
And in this area, in the New Orleans area, Louisiana area, I think I've appeared on more than 40 different stages. Loved what I have done all these years. And so along came 9/11. And I thought, what can I do to help New York? So I wrote some monologues and did monologue shows. And after that, I wrote about 25 monologues. Many have been performed over the years, but I had my various monologue shows and started using the proceeds, what we made, to help charities. At first, the money went to the Red Cross in New York because it was to help New York. And after that, I thought, no, I'm going to do things in New Orleans. We need it here in New Orleans. So I have raised tens of thousands of dollars doing something that I love, which is acting. And I've also been asked to dance tango. So
yes, we
did
have
that
a
as
photo.
well.
We have a let's talk about that. You another love
That's
is
not
tango.
That's not tango. That's
Okay,
just,
well, it's a
that's
beautiful
just-
dress, and you look great in it.
That's very free-spirited and
Okay.
having a good old time. Having a good old
But
time
I know
on the
that
dance
tango
floor.
is one of your loves. I know you take it very seriously too.
Yeah,
And that's
yeah.
it's difficult. It's more challenging than people think, isn't it?
Oh, yes, yes. You really have to know it. And then another show that I do have is Love Letters, and I have been doing that for 25 years in this city. My latest partner has been Dennis Woltering.
Who was zooming in tonight, by the way.
Good, good, good. Hi, Dennis.
Hello, Dennis.
And Dennis was wonderful to agree that the money that we would make when we did our performances would go to charities.
So, well, many, many thanks. Now, have we forgotten anything? I know there's just so much to talk to you about. Excuse me, I have to brag on you because you have 2 master's degrees, one in French, one in Italian, and of course, for over almost 22 years, you of course were a teacher and an educator at Sacred Heart, De La Salle, and Newcomb. Is that correct?
Well, I taught
Okay.
at Tulane for
Tulane.
6 years, both as a teaching assistant and adjunct faculty. Sacred Heart for about 23 years. And some of my students, former students, are watching tonight. Hello, you're all dear to my heart, as are my sisters and various family members. And so at Sacred Heart, I headed up the foreign language department and headed up the English department as well. And then I taught at De La Salle part-time for 6 years. A lot of that was concurrent with my newspaper work, so life has been busy.
Yes, it has.
Life has been busy.
And I know that you wanted to do a shout out to Francine Siegel, longtime director and actress herself. A little bit
Right.
about that? or-
So it's been a wonderful experience doing great performances with Nell Nolan. I thank Francine Siegel, who helped me direct the 3 pieces. Thank you, Francine. And particular thanks go to you, Peggy, and your team, who've made this a wonderful experience. And so let's all raise a glass to Peggy and to WYES.
Well, thank you so much, Nell, but also to you, my goodness, because, there's Dennis Woltering. Hey, Dennis. Hello. Hey, how are y'all doing? And his lovely wife, of course, too. Dennis, I hope your arm is better. I think I saw on Facebook that you had Oh, okay, it's getting a little bit better there. I'm so glad. It's great to see you, though, Dennis, too. But now we so appreciate all your time. It's been so much fun. And once again, I feel like I have to brag on you because it's one thing to perform. It's another thing to write and perform. So many, many thanks. And also we have, I think, a really nice photo of the entire Nolan family and Young family, which we'll show in just a moment. Here we are. Yay.
Okay. And so that's the Young family, really just a Young family, Robert and Nell in the middle, with various children, grandchildren. And since then, we've added 4 great-grandchildren.
Oh, my goodness. Well, congratulations. Thank you once again so much, Nell. And now, time for a toast to Nell. Thank you, Nell. And thanks to all of you, our generous supporters. And thank you, James, of course, because, our supporters help make it possible for us to produce and present programs that educate and entertain for over 64 years. And don't forget, stepping out on Thursday nights at 7, we cover the arts, including local theater, every week. Again, special thanks to Great Performances sponsors, Sandra and Russ Herman. And thanks again to James Moises and Vino Wine and Spirits. Also, appreciation goes to Dana Hansel and Aislinn Hinyup and Jim Moriarty, George Matulik, and our great crew. By the way, our next Great Performances is June 22nd, featuring Deacon John. And not only will he be sharing stories about his career, but we'll show some rare performance footage with Deacon and Alan Toussaint and Dr. John, and have some shared memories, some wonderful memories from Irma Thomas. Go to wyes.org/events to get your tickets. Once again, James is going to be with us, and he will tell us about the wines that he has selected for that special evening. Before we conclude, though, let's do one more zoom around. Okay, y'all. Let's say hello one more time, and thank you, thank you. Let's see who's out there. Hey, our Vino quiet spirit. And we're getting great comments. Nell, lots of bravos to Nell. Absolutely. Hello, y'all. There you go. There are the Wheatleys. Hello, Nell's sister. Hi. It's great to see you all. Yes, yes. And the Willems, once again, I'm seeing. And how wonderful. We've had just such a wonderful turnout, and I can't tell you how much it means to WYS and the folks who work here that you all are with us and support us too. But it has been quite the turnout. Hey, and Lou Hoffman, my pal Lou. Hey, Lou. Good to see you. Thank you. And the Duvals, of course. Hello. Pearl Francais, big time, and Mark Romick. There's Mark. Hello. Hello, y'all. It's great to see you. Hey, hi. Hey, it has been so much fun, and this is a different kind of theater. Hey, how you? Thank you all so much, Nancy and Joanne. Hey, thank y'all. But it's wonderful. We've done theater, but we've done theater with Zoom. How much fun is that? Thank you. Hey, hello. And we have had such a good time. Hello, Roma. Hello. Hey, and I think I see Penny Cobb too. Hello, Penny. Hey, best you can. Hi. And once again, Susie Villery, hey, hi, y'all. Oh, it's great. It's just been so exciting just to see you all, to be with us. And hi, how are you? Hello. Okay, hello. Thank you, Sun Kim. Yes, hey. So much fun tonight, and be able to do the theater and sip some wine and the good locks. Hello. Hey, y'all, thank you so much. Jimmy, hey, Susan, yes, and the Period, Kay Claiborne, and yeah, hi. What an incredible evening, and I'm just so proud of everybody and our wonderful staff too. And thank you, I love the thank you. Okay, thank you all. All right. Hi, hello. Look at the wonderful background. Seaside here. Hey, thank you. Hello to you. Yes, indeed. All right. Jim Tapley, I don't think that's wine. I think you got caught, kiddo. You know, that's a rolling Elvi, by the way. Hey. Hey, I love the waves with our folks out there. Yes. Very, very good. And somewhere Errol Laborde's out there too, I think. Hey. Yes, and there's Dennis. Hey, there y'all are. Okay. Well, once again, there's Vivian. Hey, Vivian. And Bob and Jan. There's Bob and Jan and Dom. All right. Hope you enjoyed your vino. You're going to have to fill up that glass. Okay. Well, I think we're going to be signing off shortly. But once again, Nell and James, bravo, brava.
Bravo.
Thank you all very
What
much.
fun.
Thanks for being with us. And good night.
Good night.